Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we're looking at the Lantillian short hauler. The Lantillian, I'm going to murder the name here many times, so please bear with me. Uh, Lant Lantillian. Like I said, I'm going to mess this up. Okay, the Lantillian short hauler is a rugged, well-engineered craft. Was originally designed for affluent retirees interested in piloting a pleasure craft, but not in paying an exorbitant price commanded by a star yacht. The short hauler was developed by a team of engineers working for Lantillian Shipwrights. The design team was led by engineer Shield Turvo, a friend and collaborator of Wallix Billix, the designer of the Victory class Star Destroyer. Ironically, Lantillian Shipwrights intended for fashion intended to fashion a freighter to complete or compete with the wildly successful models produced by the Corellian Engineering Corporation. Instead, the small shipbuilding firm produced one of the first luxury pleasure craft that was still within the financial reach of the average citizen. Shortly after the Battle of Yavin, Lantillian Shipwrights was absorbed by Tejco. The new parent company fired many of the designers, though Turvo eventually found work with Quat drive yards and developed many of the key systems for the Eclipse class Star Destroyer project. Excuse me. The short hauler GX1 is the basic model available, equipped with a civilian grade turbo laser cannon, modest shielding, and a Fabritech 7Y4 sensor suite, Cybot Galactica Navmaster navigational computer, and Lantillian shipwrights Class 4 sublight engines. In addition, the short hauler possessed a number of amenities: a well-designed galley, a hollow theater, and fairly large living quarters. The one complaint is common among short hauler captains: the landing gear assembly is extremely complex and is prone to malfunctions unless maintained regularly. Dust, corrosion, and other such obstructions can prevent the gear from retracting or deploying properly. And since the dissolution of Lantillian shipwrights, parts are difficult and expensive to come by. While the Lantillian short hauler never took the freighter market by storm, it has performed well as a cargo vessel. A number of enterprising smugglers and shippers have produced or purchased the inexpensive and reliable vessels and modified them to serve as cargo haulers by removing amenities such as the hollow theater and adding cargo bays. Short haulers are effective freighters. However, most shippers augment the vessel's shielding and weaponry, as the stock short hauler possesses inadequate defenses against pirate attacks. So, I was going to go to Wikipedia for this, but I figured, you know what? I've got it right here in the stock ships book, so why not take it right from what West End Games had originally made for this ship? And as we can see, this ship really does have two levels. One of the in the book that I usually grab everything off of, it shows a completely different layout than what I've got here. This is the one that's typically used, and ironically, if you happen to watch Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and I forget what season it is, Ahsoka Tano and um a gentleman from the um, Confederation there, uh, they're on one of these ships, and he actually ejects out on the short haulers kind of shuttle. Uh, it's one of those things of the design that they used is very similar as to what you see in front of you. So taking it for that, this It's always nice when I get to see some of the stuff because I know that Dave Filoni has seen a lot of the, or has to have seen some of the books from West End Games, and I think that's because George Lucas steered him into that direction. Because when he was doing Rebels, he grabbed some of that stuff that we see in West End Games. So one of the other big things I love about this is the fact that if you really want to know what was close to canon, if you go to the old West End game stuff, you're getting as close as you can to canon. Lucas had worked with the gaming company to make sure things were going good, as well as the writers were staying on track with the continuing stories and everything else. And it was all kind of centered around, keeping a continuity. And West End Games was brought in there to help keep that continuity. How oddly strange as that is, and it's something I only learned a couple of years ago myself. So I do find it to be an amazing task that a role playing game company was kind of helping to keep the continuity of the Star Wars expanded universe going. So, whenever I say this, that, you know, for all of our favorite franchises, Star Wars, Star Trek, G.I. Joe, Transformers, whatever, regardless of whatever else comes out, I've always said this, none of these franchises are set to die in any regard as long as us, the fans, who have used these games, the stories, the old stories, the stuff that we hearken back to, as long as we keep that alive, the franchises never officially die. There's still a huge fan base for all of those that love Firefly. And because of that, it will always live on. Even if it never makes another movie, I know that, but 2 years ago, at the time of recording this, they created a role playing game. So it's still living on. Maybe not in the actual big media on the big screen or even what we consider the small screen of our TVs. This stuff still lives on. So that's my biggest takeaway from all of this. So always keep that in mind. All right, so let's look at the ship here. We do have everything's kind of labeled here, and we'll go over what everything is here, and we have all of our stats here as well. So we do have our cockpit, the pilot station, co-pilot station, sensor, communication station, and shield operations. So that's 1A, B, C, and D. So that, of course, that's going to be all the way up here. Our pilot, co-pilot, sensors, um, communications, all that stuff. Let's see, we have our vest tube, so that's our entry and exit elevator. So that's number 2 here. So we get right in this category here, that neck that separates the cockpit from the rest of the ship. Let's see. We have captain's quarters for 3, main computer and life support is 4. So captain's quarters on the, I believe it's the port side. And on the starboard side, we have, you know, uh, communication, or what was it? Communications, main computer and life support control. And then 5, we have common room, crew lounge, and 6 is crew quarters. So we look at 5 and 6 here. Kind of, we have 6 going all the way back, and 5 is our big common area in the middle. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different cabins there for whatever crew or passengers or what have you going on there. Um, 7 is our refresher, and 8 is our zero relaxation chamber. So 7 being our refresher, and 8. I'm looking for, okay, that's our kind of relaxation chamber there, and it looks like it's got like 4 different pods to sit on, like little chairs or something similar. I'm just taking a guess here, similar as to what we see Yoda and Mace Windu sitting on when they're um, meditating. Okay, and then we're looking at 9 and 10. Let's see what we have here. 9, 10, and 11. 11 looks like that's going to be our medical base. So let's see what we have. 9 is our hollow theater. 10 is our galley. And then 11 is our medical bay. And then we have 12 is our airlock. 13 is our gun turret. And 14 is engineering. So 12 I thought was our gun tube, but that's our airlock. So from the ceiling, that's our airlock. 13 here, all the way in the back, in between our theater and our whatever 10 was here. I'm drawing a blank. That is our gun well. So then you jump up there and you jump on or jump into the turret. And then 14 is our engineering. Let's see, 15 is hyperdrive engines, 16 is sublight, 17 is repulsor, so 16, 15, 16, 17. 17 is on both sides here, 15 is in the back, our 16 is our pods on the side, so you get the idea. And then we'll just kind of go through this. Then we have a foyer entry area, entry exit elevator, access to escape pod and storage in the cargo hold there. And like I said, there is a second ship underneath there that we don't really see on this, and that was really used, really brought to light in our Clone Wars. Because the gentleman that was from the Confederacy had used that shuttle that was underslung there, and he kind of left Ahsoka stranded on a ship that was inoperable because he had kind of disabled the ship itself. And then, of course, Anakin comes and saves her, and that shortly after. Um, it's an interesting thing. It's always nice whenever we get to see some of the stuff being brought into some of the videos, whether it's the Clone Wars or it's in a movie or anything else, because then we get to see what is considered the expanded universe or whatever brought into what is now considered canon. And when we bring all the stuff into canon, now we have to really start determining what is and is not canon. And then I say that because, Disney's been doing shows, and some of them have been doing okay, some of them not so well. What is what. And when you have a season or a series that has a season 1 but is not going to have a season 2, is that series now canon or is it not canon? Because it was just kind of dropped. So everyone's going to have to do what they're going to do. And I'm not going to say you have to do this or you have to do that. Everyone has their own opinion what will and what should be Star Wars. And whether you agree with it or not agree with it or whatever, that always gets it to be in an argument with different fans. And I understand it. I really do. And I'm an old fan. I'm willing to take some of the new stuff. A lot of what Disney has done, I consider that an offshoot, and that is Disney Wars. The big things I want to grab out of Disney Wars is the ships. The ships, the droids, the whatever. The stories I will continue on through the expanded universe and everything else. The biggest thing that was always put out in the role-playing game was you can have your characters interact with main characters in the universe that we see. You can interact with Jabba the Hutt, but you can't kill him. You can interact with Han, Luke, Leia, but you can't kill him. Now, it doesn't mean that you couldn't kill the Rancor before Luke Skywalker gets there, because that could always get replaced with another Rancor, and nobody really knows the difference. But you can't kill the main characters. Okay? So, however you want to do it. You can interact with all the stuff. If you want to have a Poe Dameron and a Finn and whatever else, go ahead. If you want to have Rey in there, go ahead. If you want to say, nope, that's a whole different timeline, that's all off on its own, perfectly fine. Everyone has to come up with their own decision on that. And I'm just here to throw out all these different ships and vehicles, and we have droids, and later on we're going to get into weapons, and we have different creatures and all this other stuff that was brought in That's what we're going to center on. Okay, so let me get off my high horse here and get onto the stats because that's the fun part. All right, so this is a pleasure craft. It's a starfighter scale. It's at 27 meters. It has a crew of 4. Requires a bare minimum of a crew of 2 with a +5. We can have 6 passengers, and we do have cargo capacity for 85 tons. Keep in mind, the Millennium Falcon was 100 tons, so we're a little less than where the Millennium Falcon was. Not saying it couldn't be modified for something else, or 85 is perfectly fine, however you want to look at it. Um, we do have consumables for about 1 month. Remember, this is a short hauler. So small jumps doesn't mean you can't get somewhere, land, refuel, restock, get up and go for the next leg or whatever. It's just one of those things of, a month is still pretty good, um, even for a short hauler. Okay, so we're looking at a cost of 20,500 credits for a used copy of this because you're not going to find a brand new Lantillian short hauler. We do have a times 2 hyperdrive with a backup of a times 12. We do have a nav computer on here, maneuverability of 1D, and a space of 4. This is not a very fast ship. It is meant for more pleasure cruise or something like that. Yeah, 85 tons for cargo, so you know what? You're a pleasure cruiser, but unfortunately, because you have a truck, somebody needs you to move the bed or whatever else. That kind of an idea, right? So there we are. Okay, we can go about 800 kilometers an hour in an atmosphere. We do have a hull of 4D, so this is a very nicely resilient hull. Uh, Shield's not as good, but we do have a strong hull. Let's see, and our sensors. So we can do a passive scan out to 1 kilometer, an active scan at 2.5 kilometers, a search out to 4 kilometers, and a focus out to 200 meters. This is not the best sensor packet that you can come up with, but it's cheap and it's dirty and it does the job. When you look at the numbers behind it, our passive is at a 0D, our active scan's a 1D, a search is a 2D, and our focus is a 2D. So, it's bare minimum. But like it said, this was meant for people on a budget, right? So you have to give and take there. Okay, a laser weapon, our weapon is a laser cannon, a single laser cannon. Although when you look at the picture, that is a double laser cannon, so that's slightly modified from the standard, but not a problem. We can easily do that. And let's see, it can be fired by the co-pilot or pilot or co-pilot with a +5 difficulty. And if you're doing that, chances are, just like all the other ones, it's going to be locked forward. Or unless you lock it behind you, but you're going to have to designate where it's locked, and then that's where you're going to have to leave it. Most of the time, you're going to lock it forward because then you can try and figure out where you're shooting. This is at Starfighter scale, has a fire control of 1D, and we have a damage of 3D. So not the most deadly laser cannon out there. It's an underpowered one in a lot of regards, but there again, it did say it's a civilian grade, not a military grade. And yeah, I could very easily see people trying to beef that up and throw some different guns in there or whatever else. So, it's another nice ship to be able to see, something we have seen if you've watched the Clone Wars. For those that never really watched it and don't have a desire, fair enough. I've met enough people that said, I don't really care for the cartoon stuff. Perfectly fine. I've watched a lot of this stuff. I've watched most of the Star Wars stuff. I can't say all of it because there's a couple series I didn't watch. Shoot, I know there's one where they're on a water-based planet, and then the guy wants to do some racing, and then he's trying to get into the Rebel Alliance, and he's doing some kind of espionage work or something like that, and he's not really the best. I mean, it sounds like it's got some fairly good character development in there. It's just something I watched a couple episodes, but I just didn't get hooked on it. Not saying it was bad. It's just one of those things. Not everyone watches everything, and I get it. Not a problem with that. But there we are. you know, to to wrap this all up, I mean, being able to just get the different ships out here, and this is the one thing I've always tried to get for my group of guys that we game, and it's just a couple of us, but the more ships or more locations by planets or anything else I could get, the more things I could throw out at them, the better I felt because it's a galaxy I wanted to be able to bring out to people. So with that, I think I get to do that to you because as you stop by and you get to see a different ship, some people watch some people watch other ones, and that's perfectly fine. So with all that being said, thanks so very much for stopping by and watching the silly ship for the day. It's always great having you here. Hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next.